Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Udis, in this series on the network of global corporate control. Today's show is being broadcast live and is called Break-in Interference, thanks to DCTV. Today, Mo Jackson is our studio producer and director, Cruchet Starnes is on audio, and Dolores Harris is floor director. For 1.5 years, this series has been coming to you from DCTV. We're answering the questions of our Japanese and Russian allies and the rest of the Coalition for the Rule of Law, whether enough people are aware of reality and are ready to govern the United States during this interregnum, when we replace paper currency for gold. And it's the network of global corporate control that we're up against. How do I know this? Because of recent comments in my social media. RT is moderating my comment on the elections and whether or not the process is fair. And the most important thing that I said in my comment is that the power transition model from the United States War College is clear. The United States is in interregnum, and we are replacing unconstitutional Federal Reserve notes in a global currency reset. The Central Bank of the Russian Federation is a member of the Bank for International Settlements, and it is also going to be replacing their paper currency. When you know that Russia lost more than 25 million people in World War II, and also that Moscow State University is publishing the truth about how the Jesuits tried to rewrite history in a website called Chronologia, then you know that the Russians are not going to sit back and let the culprits who brought about World War II have their way. Yes, it's the people at the head of the network of global corporate control. They're called pharaonic bloodline families. And they're organized in Switzerland in a group called the Octagon. My comment to our Japanese allies was also published by Popular Resistance after I tweeted it. What was the comment? The global currency reset depends upon the chain reaction among the BRICS. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The public in the BRICS and Japan, and the Joint Japan Committee under the Status of Forces Agreement. I'm actively working the problem, and I report back every week on progress. That's why freedom of the press is so important. And the network of global corporate control is identified now. They were identified by Stefani Vitali and also by Glatfelder and by Battiston in the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, Switzerland. And this network is often referred to as the banking cartel. And I'm having a little bit of a problem reading the teleprompter. This is because I forgot to put my contact lenses on, so you'll have to bear with me. But I realized that I was talking about the Postmaster General of the United States, Megan Brennan, and she failed to respond to my complaint, and she failed to deliver my priority mail letter to Japan. And this is very important because the United States military is there to defend Japan. And that's why the Japanese are not going to sit back idly while the United States is unilaterally surrenders when the Federal Reserve note crashes. That's what the network of global corporate control thought was going to happen. And a model that came to the World Bank from the Department of Defense National War College, it's very, very accurate. It uses game theory modeling, and this tells us that that scenario is not happening. And senior members of the Japanese government know this full well because I met with them and spoke to them about how we were going to be working together with them as allies to take down this network of global corporate control. And you can see from the documents that I have tweeted, you can see that I also wrote to all the embassies in Tokyo in 2014, and I have kept them updated all the time. And the global currency reset is going to take place, and all of the embassies in New York and the embassies in Washington and the embassies in Tokyo know full well, and also much of the public knows this, because I brief you on DCTV. I upload this on YouTube, and then when you respond in comments, I take your comments into account. And that's how we're all working together during the global currency reset. We are not going to allow the United States Federal Reserve notes and Japan's currency to crash. It's just not going to happen the way the network of global control wanted. And you can scroll up. I'm ready for the next part on the teleprompter. This is because I'm speaking extemporaneously because I can't read the thing after I forgot my contact lenses. And the United States Defense Attaché has posted a lot of the information that I have given him. The power transition model is what we're going by, and it's very, very accurate. And this was my comment in Popular Resistance that posted my comment. The chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Joseph Dunford Jr., he is working for the network of global corporate control, and it's very clear that he's lost all credibility with all of the forces in the United States. And his corruption has been, he was caught red-handed. We showed how he was caught red-handed. And if I were him, I would resign, because people do not respect brass that are there to answer to treason. He is just treasonous, and he's not going to be protected. And he used military technology to try to take me out, and it didn't work. Why didn't it work? It's because the people of the United States are onto the network of global corporate control. They are finished. They're not credible. At the end of World War II, Jose Rizal was the superior general of the Jesuits. That's called the Society of Jesus. And he handed over the Vatican's wealth to humanity in a trust called the Global Debt Facility. And this trust is administered by 189 ministers of finance and development. And these people are in a coalition that are now in control, and they're not taking any flack from the network of global corporate control. We have taken out their interference. And there's going to be a clip at the end of this series because I'm working together with a number of people, including Betsy Malone, who put this blog out, which is a very nice blog. You'll see it. I've put it up on YouTube, and a lot of people really liked it. We're going to upload this program afterwards, and more people are going to see this as well. And together with the compounded interest on bonds that are in the global debt facility, the Federal Reserve and all of the Bank for International Settlement is now insolvent. And these bonds offset all country indebtedness. What does this mean? This means that when you pay income taxes, which all go to the network of global corporate control, and we know this because Ronald Reagan had a study commissioned. It was called the Grace Commission. And this study shows that the network of global corporate control thought we were so stupid that we were going to let them get away with that scam. And the same people are the ones that are trying to introduce austerity programs They're the same ones that are trying to rob all the people of their pensions because they think the Federal Reserve note is going to crash and wipe out all of the pensions. Well, we have another thing coming for them. The ones that are going to be wiped out are the agents for the network of global corporate control. And there are a lot of those agents, including just about every single member of the bar. So they're not going to, the legal profession is not going to be sitting very pretty very much longer. And it was Wolfgang Struck who tried to put a deal together to sell back the bonds that the Federal Reserve issued in the 1930s. Those bonds have been earning compounded interest, which is how that amount got up to $2 quadrillion. Major newspapers in Greece ran my story about how country debt is just a scam and the austerity programs are just a scam. And this story is so big that it still shows up in the search engines, which are very, very corrupt. I've used these bonds to record financing statements against the Fed, and the Fed is now bankrupt, and it's getting wound down. We put the segments up on YouTube, and we incorporate your comments. I read each and every one of them, and we answer your questions also here on the programs in DCTV. And we've been covering a lot of ground, and we've been doing what is sometimes called consciousness raising and in the year and a half that we've been on air. 6 months ago, we raised some of these issues, and I'd like to run a clip now, if you have that ready, where we were talking about General Dunford's treason. Let's talk about the battle against the network of global corporate control. There have been many victories. One victory was when General Dunford, chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who thinks he's above the law and has the right to be a dictator, and he is following instructions from the network of global corporate control. What he did was he erased my response to Anna von Reitz. I had responded because Anna von Reitz was trying to steal the world's gold and give it to General Dunford, who that would plunge us immediately in World War III. 3 hours after I started looking for that missing response, someone put it back in my computer, and I could show how Anna von Reitz had failed in her attempt to steal the gold in the global debt facility. That gold is subject to the decision of the 188 ministers of finance. Because this is a sting operation, the agents that were trying to help von Reitz were also exposed. Benjamin Fulford, Field McConnell, and the Able Danger operation. One of my favorite tweets mentioned this dirty trick that they tried to erase a response that I had made, and I listed a few other dirty tricks of the network of global corporate control, including a warrant for my arrest that was signed by Bertrand Badret. He was managing director and chief financial officer of the World Bank. That document, which Badret signed on the 15th of February 2016, also stated that he was dissolving the global debt facility in order to steal the world's assets from the world's peoples. Badret signed that document as acting president of the World Bank, and that was what he signed on the arrest warrant as well. Badret has left the World Bank. I knew this was going to be a battle that could be won because the power transition model from the United States Department of Defense predicted that a coalition for the rule of law would form, and that this coalition is stronger than the network of global corporate control. The lies of the network of global corporate control are exposed, and the network is exposed. The network of global corporate control requires secrecy in order to continue in power, and this secrecy is now missing. Vitaly Glatfelder and Battiston showed the existence of the network of global corporate control in 2012. We ago, we gave people lessons in how to overcome the normalcy bias. The corruption in the financial system is very deep. It's so deep that many people would rather not deal with it. That's to be expected. The term for this is called normalcy bias. A man named Nick Batista wrote to me about the normalcy bias, and he asked me to give him some suggestions about how to deal with people who just didn't want to contemplate whether corruption was that deep. And we said to him that the best thing to do is to let people alone if they would rather not face that corruption, and to move on to see where there are other people who can see the difference between what reality is and some people call this a matrix, some of the lies that are just told by all of the media, which is owned, of course, by the network of global corporate control. And there are enough people that realize that there is something radically wrong. And YouTube is owned by Google, and Google was created by the CIA, and that means that sometimes some of the comments that you make are not transmitted, they're erased, and also sometimes the responses that I make to your comments are not, they're erased, and so we just put those comments and the responses up on social media, and Twitter has taken tweets down, so you just have to realize that we're working through all of these different ways in communicating, and this is actually very good training for us, because when we continue to have the global currency reset, we're going to have to find ways of communicating. And we're right in the middle of the global currency reset. And just stay tuned and learn how to discern reality from this false propaganda that you're hearing from the network of global corporate control. And the information also has got to be vetted by groups of people that you're comfortable working with, and you have to continue to work with them during the reset, because we're going to be cleaning up the corruption very systematically, and it's not going to happen overnight because the corruption is so very deep. And the world's whistleblowers are right working with us on this. Okay, we're trying to get caught up because there's going to be a very long clip that's going to come. This is what Betsy Malone has put together for you. And a lot of people have seen this on YouTube, as I was mentioning, and they were saying that Betsy is very much, Betsy and I are working hand in glove, and that is true. There are a number of other people that I'm working very closely with. You see, the reason why people think that this is such a valuable forum is because I'm obviously not doing this by myself, and the best comments are really coming from everybody who are, we're all working together. This is a collaboration, and I'm certainly not proud, and that's why I'm trying to let you know all of the different sources of the information that I'm given, and that's the way we're going to be working in the global currency reset. It is bottom up, it's not top down, and it's collaborative. Obviously, we need to learn how to work together, and that's what we've been doing. One of the commenters has said about 2 years ago, when I was working on the American Spring, they said, Karen is live right now. She's perhaps the most important whistleblower humanity has ever known. Well, it's not me. As I said, I'm just working together with everybody. And this is one of the nicest tasks that I have, is to learn to know the people that are also reclaiming humanity's birthright, because that is what we are doing. And one example of how we're all working together is, it was a comment from YouTube that asked me to think about what was going on with the Electoral College, and if the United States Constitution is not in effect because it's been suspended by the U.S. Congress, then of course we can't have an election. So what Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump think they're doing, it's not getting anywhere, because the Electoral College is not duly constituted. So anything that you hear about a new president, this is going to be nonsense, and we're not going to accept that. What's going to happen is we're going to put our Constitution back in effect, and until the Constitution is in effect, I'm just sort of a placeholder. And this is what I've been saying to the Board of Governors, which are the ones that are in charge of the U.S. monetary gold reserves, that are obviously belong to the United States. And we will have this in our currency. And we will also be very careful to make sure that the gold doesn't go missing. We're going to set up the systems so that this can be done very cleanly. And anybody that has a complaint is obviously welcome to voice it, and we will be as responsive as we possibly can. Because, as I said, we are now all working together. We're all responsible. We're all accountable. And obviously, I'm as accountable as anyone for the transparency during the global currency reset. And the systems have not been worked out in detail. And the reason for that is because I have got to be reporting to the Board of Governors. And you see, I'm not allowed to go into the building. I can just be tweeting and sending letters. I do try to use the mail. And I was going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the U.S. Postmaster General. The reason why the Constitution of 1789 is the one that we're going to be looking at is because the nations all agreed that they had to have a system that was universal for all the countries. So that was why the states were not allowed to continue with their Continental Congress, and why we had to have a constitution the way we are. Now, so we are going to be working together to put our Constitution of 1789 back in effect, and naturally this can be amended as the people want it. Don't forget also that there's going to be a ratification process. So as Justice Scalia mentioned, the minimal risk in the Article 5 Constitutional Convention is the one that you have to take in order to put the Constitution back into effect. And one of the comments that I was going to read to you had the word namaste at the end, and I wanted to explain to you what namaste means. It's an ancient Sanskrit greeting which is still in everyday use in India, and especially on the trail in the Nepal Himalaya. And translated, it means, the God within me salutes the spirit within you. And this says that we are all working under the same divine consciousness. I've been blowing the whistle on the legal profession for many years, and I found an old tweet which exposed how the lawyers are trying to hide that the U.S. was under martial law instead of admitting that the Constitution of 1789 was not in effect. And the tweet says why the American law schools have lost the enrollment. It dropped nearly 20% from 2010 to 2014. And you can see in the teleprompter the exact numbers on that. I didn't go to my law school reunion for the reason that I thought I was not going to be really welcomed by my fellow Yale Law School alumni. So I didn't bother to go there. But I would expect that many of them are contemplating what the legal profession needs to do. I don't think we're going to have a legal profession going forward in the global currency reset. Now we have a few minutes left before the clip is going to run. One of the comments that was made on the soft landing was they said it's a cliffhanger, and they're all trying to figure out whether there is going to be a soft landing. And I also just saw a comment from another reader who was looking at the, I did a screenshot of the program which we're going to be taping today and putting up next week. This was showing some documents that Wolfgang Struck sent to me. And he was saying, well, is there really going to be a soft landing? Because many people, although they see how strong these documents are, they doubt, they think that too many people are being influenced by the false media. And this is also the alternative media. At least 80% of it, if not more, is just as bad in telling lies as the mainstream media. And I saw a clip the other day which was very alarming. They took some of the things that I said out of context 3 and 4 years ago, and they were running it, and they said that I didn't have any good documentation. And the people that were interviewing me, I contacted them because I obviously cannot ask YouTube to take down a clip if I wasn't the one that uploaded it. YouTube is very clear. I've got to get the people that were interviewing me to ask for this YouTube to go down. But what this said to me, it was a very well manufactured clip. What it said to me was that somebody was taking a lot of time and effort to try to discredit me. So when you see these things, and the YouTube interviews say I don't have any documentation, and I really do have the documentation, you have to use some critical thinking. And that is probably one of the deepest lessons that we have to learn. We have to learn what critical thinking is, and we have to start using it. And the best way to learn what critical thinking is to work together with people who you know and trust, and let them help you reason things through. Are we going to have our clip now? I think that would be a good thing to do, to run Betsy's clip. Can you do that for me?
About the clip now. Okay, is it running now?
This is the blog that Betsy Malone has posted, and I've forwarded to all the people in my social media, which at this point is about 60,000 people, and of course they reshare it. So let me explain what it is that we've got here. Betsy is showing what interference is, and she's telling us to do this exercise, which is to read the words, say the colors they're printed in, and as fast as you can. So let me try to do that. Blue, green, red, yellow, green, red, blue, red,